All right, we're going to start making your birthday pie. So first take your bag of flour and salt that I gave you and put that into a bowl, and then cut the bottom of that bag where it says cut here and squeeze that into your bowl on top of your flour and salt mixture. And then take a butter knife and just start cutting it and cutting it and cutting it until it's real crumbly.
I don't think Grandma's butter knife is going to be sharp enough to cut those.
After I got it all cut up, I used my fingers and kind of just work work more of that shortening into the flour until it's kind of crummy. See how it's kind of crummy? I use really you want to use cold water and only put in a little bit at a time. I think the recipe calls for 6 tablespoons. I've never actually measured it. But you work it in a little bit at a time.
Your hands are going to feel real gross.
I use one hand for the kneading of the dough and the other one for grabbing stuff. You don't want to get too much water in, so you always put in a little bit at a time. Now, if you ever want to recreate this whole pie crust thing, you only buy gold medal flour and Crisco shortening and check the date on both. That Crisco shortening can get rancid. So if you move or you put it in storage and it gets really hot, you need to just throw that away. And you know what the dough's supposed to feel like. You've felt enough dough in your life. So I made 2 balls. Now you have that extra bag of extra flour. There, make yourself a hamburger. If it's cracked, just keep going. You're not going to get all the cracks out. There, use your extra flour. Get your table nice and floury. As you can see, this wasn't my first pie of the day.
Much flour. Very dough. Wow.
Huh? Yeah, I don't get it. Now, I apologize in advance for the plastic rolling pin we sent you, but that's what we could find. That's what we could find for under $20. So if you decide to make a career out of it, I will get you a better rolling pin. I almost just mailed you mine to borrow. A good wooden rolling pin's hard to find, evidently. Kind of run your pressure on the out, you don't have to press very hard. You want your dough pretty thin, but you don't want to need to see through it necessarily. Yeah, Grace said she was editing that part out.
It will. Do not read it.
Oh, I thought you already did. There, now for the bottom layer, you want to cut right up against the side of the pan. You've got a lip on your pan. Just go right around that lip. just like I'm doing with this deep dish pan. Now I made this is more of a fresh apple pie. I didn't can these. So mine's going to be way more mounded. Yours already cooked down, so I don't know if you really need both jars or not. So just open the big jar first and put your big jar in, because you might not even need your smaller jar. I have to mound mine up because mine are going to cook down into nothing. If you mound yours up after it's already been cooked, what's going to happen is it's going to go all over your oven. Which, trust me, it's going to go all over your oven anyway. So if I were you, I would take some tin foil and put it in the bottom of your oven so you get your deposit back on that thing. Because that's going to be a mess to clean out. I just use heavy duty tin foil and put it underneath the element. That should just lift up and you can slide it under there really easy. And if you only use the quart jar for the pie, you can always just eat the pint over pancakes or whatever else.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Grandma had apple pancakes. It sounds really good to me too. I think we should do that. It got a little dry because I don't know why, it just did. So I took it and I made that little rolly ball. I dunked it in the water and then just worked that in. I didn't pour any more water in. I just dunked half of it in there. That little bit of water is all it needed. Notice I'm rolling from the center out a lot or around the sides, and I'm not putting even pressure on it. I'm putting the pressure where it's the dough's the thickest and kind of trying to roll it in the direction I want it to go. It'll try to crack, so try to roll towards your cracks to try to fill them in. And then that happens. It just happens. It's okay. Remember, there's going to be creases in this crust anyway, so if it breaks, it just breaks. If all else fails, you can always make a lattice crust. See, and that pie is that piece is going to go right through the top. Oh yeah. Now this layer, you want to cut it a little bit longer than the pie. This layer you want to cut a little bit longer than you did the first one, because you're going to tuck that underneath when you do the fluting, which means the part where you kind of stick the top to the bottom. So I leave about a good ½ inch over the edge. I think I saw my mom actually use the scissors when I was younger.
You used to use the scissors. You let me use the scissors.
And then I tuck it underneath the bottom layer of crust. See, I'm tucking it under. That's to try to keep the pie from over spilling. And then you flute it, and that's just a pinching. That pinching kind of seals the two doughs together. Now, I always bake these. Oh, yeah, put your slits in it. You have to put slits in it. And then put that cover over top. The ring. It'll keep your crust from burning. Now, Grandma says she always just puts sugar on it right away. So I did this last time. I think I like my way better. But you should probably just do this because I always sprayed it with a water bottle the last 15 minutes and then sprinkled the sugar on it so it stuck better. This works too, just sprinkling the sugar on right away. And then put this in your on top. That oven is preheated. Before you put your pie in, it has to be preheated too. And look, we put in 1 and 2 came out. Can you believe this? Yeah, that's why I use tinfoil when you give your son your other ring.
No, they're not. Now watch the timer.
That's the last 15 minutes. It's got to bake without the rings. I put it in for 30 minutes before that, and then you add another 15 minutes.
Okay, now turn it
And then
off.
when you're done, you get pie.